Insomniac Spider-Man 2 has been one of the most anticipated PS5 titles for the last couple of years, and when it finally released on October 20th, 2023, it absolutely did not disappoint. And while the game itself is a technical marvel and one of the most fun experiences you can have with a video game this year, today I want to talk about something a little bit more specific. Ever since I was a little kid, Spider-Man has always been my favorite superhero and one of my favorite characters, period. And after spending many hours with this game, it's clear that the team at Insomniac loves this character every bit as much as I do. So today I want to talk about why this game is the ultimate love letter to Spider-Man and an absolute must-play for all fans of the character. Ever since the character's inception way back in the 1960s, Spidey has always been at the very top of the superhero hierarchy when it comes to popularity. But just why is the character so popular? How is a nerdy kid with little more than the powers of a spider, admittedly not really the coolest thing in the world, stood the test of time better than almost any other superhero around? Well, a big part is the relatability of the character. It's not exactly easy for someone to put themselves in the shoes of a Kryptonian god like Superman or a multi-millionaire playboy like Batman, but almost anyone can relate to a young adult with a multitude of problems like Peter Parker. And while Spider-Man has had many interpretations over his vast and storied history, most of the time he is a young adult who not only has to deal with saving the city, but also has to battle many other relatable foes, such as school, unemployment, relationship problems, possible eviction, all that fun adult stuff. And much like they did in this first Spider-Man game and the Miles Morales spin-off, Insomniac absolutely nails this dynamic of the character. During the course of the game, Peter Parker's Spider-Man faces a number of problems that many gamers might be experiencing in their own life as they play along. He's struggling to hold down a job, his partner feels neglected in their relationship, and he feels like he's constantly being pulled in too many directions. Conversely, Miles as Spider-Man helps to represent problems that younger gamers might be facing. He's stressed about his college admission essay, he can't work up the courage to ask his crush out, and he's extremely eager to earn his role model's approval. Insomniac's portrayal of Peter and Miles are every bit as relatable as they've ever been in the comics, movies, or any other medium, and Insomniac seems to understand just how important this aspect is to the Spider-Man character as a whole. Some of the game's most emotional and impactful moments come from these scenes where the player is just experiencing life as Peter and Miles. The first act of the game features a touching scene between Peter and Harry as they reminisce on their high school days and all the crap they went through together. A later sequence has the player control Peter as he, MJ, and Harry experience a local fair together. Walking around and playing carnival games as Peter might not sound like the most exciting thing in the world, and to be fair, it isn't, but it does help build the character up as an everyman that the player can relate to, something that is absolutely critical to the Spider-Man character. These scenes also help to build emotional tension, as the player knows that these joyful, youthful moments are barreling towards a tragic end, something else that the Spider-Man character is all too familiar with. And while Insomniac undoubtedly nails the relatability of Peter and Miles as everyman figures, Spider-Man is also a relatable character because of his power set. Now, I'm not saying that anyone out there has the ability to swing from building to building using web shooters, or anyone is able to stick to a surface with their bare hands like Peter and Miles can, but we as humans can relate to these sensations at least somewhat. Everyone knows the thrill that comes with climbing or swinging, and while those feelings that we experience are of course the most minuscule version of what Spider-Man can do, it's still a feeling that's more relatable and easier to imagine than, say, Doctor Strange conjuring a portal or Thor calling down a lightning strike from the heavens. And fortunately, if there's one thing that this game does better than maybe any other game out there, it's make the player feel like Spider-Man and really translate that power set into video game form. The very best part of Spider-Man 2 is swinging through New York City and it feeling every bit as good as you thought it would when you were a kid, jumping from couch to couch pretending to be the web slinger. The controls are impeccable and the feeling of speed and freedom as you swing from building to building is basically unmatched in video games. It felt incredible enough in the first two games in the series, but this time around they've given the Spider-Man wingsuits, which for all intents and purposes allow them to fly. Not only is this the best Spider-Man game ever created, but it also feels like the best Superman game ever made as well. Here, Insomniac has mastered the art of flying in a game like nobody else has ever been able to do. Between the characterization of Peter and Miles and the unmatched feeling of role-playing as Spider-Man available here, it's clear that Insomniac understands Spider-Man on a deep level. And while understanding and honoring the source material and the character is undoubtedly the most important part of any good love letter, that's only the tip of the iceberg here. Insomniac has stuffed this game to the gills with all sorts of Easter eggs, callbacks, and winks and nods to Spider-Man's rich history. Of course, the most obvious example of this is the huge number of different costumes that both Peter and Miles can wear throughout the adventure. The game features a staggering 68 different costumes divided between the two, that span all corners of Spider-Man's history. There are mainstream costumes here that even very casual Spidey fans will recognize, such as all the movie suits and the Spider-Man 2099 costume. But there are also some extremely deep cuts here as well that really get into the webs of Spidey's history, such as the blue suit that Peter wore when he was temporarily a member of the Fantastic Four. The attention to detail here is again unmatched. Hell, the Into the Spider-Verse costumes even allow a special lower frame rate mode that helps to emulate the animation style of those movies. It's not exactly how I would recommend playing the game for long periods of time, but it's still an incredible nod to the movie that again shows Insomniac's incredible attention to detail here. The game is also packed full of Easter eggs for the player to discover. I won't list specifics here since the joy of discovering them was easily one of the game's highlights for me, but just know that New York City is packed full of references and callbacks to not only Spider-Man's history, but also the vast history of Marvel as a whole. Spider-Man 2 is a fantastic video game, but even more so than that, it's a flawless love letter to the hero himself. Between the perfect portrayal of Peter and Miles' characters, the unmatched feeling of swinging through New York City, and the staggering number of callbacks and references to the character's rich history, it is abundantly clear that Insomniac just gets Spider-Man. Whether you're a Spider-Man diehard like me, who grew up reading the comics and playing with the action figures, or you're a more casual fan who's just seen a couple of the movies, you will undoubtedly find something to love with Marvel's Spider-Man 2.